At Ball Corporation, our cans are core to some of the most recognized brands in the world. And it's no mystery why. From craft beer to soft drinks, nothing says fresh like the pop of a pull tab. Brand equity is key, and cans deliver it in spades. They are capable of detailed branding over their entire surface, leading to unique opportunities for promotion and brand recognition. At Ball, we know your can needs to stand out from the shelves, so we offer customized design and printing. But no amount of visibility can make up for poor performance, and that's where the can really shines. Made from aluminum, cans are infinitely recyclable, but that's not all. Because of their light weight and high cubic efficiency, more product can be shipped with less weight and space, saving gas and time. Cans are overachievers when it comes to chilling out too. Not only do they cool down fast, they go wherever consumers go, on a beach, in a stadium, or just in the backyard. And wherever it winds up, the can keeps beverages at their peak. No light can spoil what's inside, so consumers know exactly how good the product is. With new form factors and innovations across the spectrum, like Illumitech bottles and widget cans, there's a can for every product and promotion. Let's make your brand shine in a Ball can.
Ispred kompanije Ball Corporation, gospodin Ramon Arratia, direktor održivog razvoja ove kompanije i viši saradnik na institutu u Cambridgeu, će se pridružiti ovome. Sceni, gospodine Arratia, izvolite.
Hi everybody. So my name is Ramon Arratia. I've been only 4 months with Ball, so very new to the can industry. I've been working on sustainability all my career. I started in Ericsson, then with Vodafone. I did the corporate report globally for Vodafone for 6 years, and I started handset recycling back then in 2002, 2005. And then I started joining a company who produced this carpet interface. So we reduced the CO2 by 98%. I mean, it was a legendary company in sustainability, and I learned quite a few things there about sustainability. And then I've just joined Ball in January. I come here with my colleague Yelena Kish. She's managing sustainability and regulatory affairs in Eastern Europe. And I've been asked to talk a little bit about how sustainability can be managed better and more daring in companies. So I thought I would share some of the learnings I've had on the last number of years. The first one, sometimes we think that sustainability is just about doing good things, and it's philanthropy, it's sort of social things, it's giving money away. I mean, this is not sustainability. This is not. This is just philanthropy, or some people call it CSR, but it's not even CSR. It's just philanthropy, giving money away. No. Sustainability is about how companies make money and how companies. What is the core business of companies, and how that core business affects other people or environment. This is it's about how your core processes affect other people, and whether you can do some tweaks in the different parts of your processes to be a better citizen, to be better for the environment, to be better for stakeholders. This is key. It's not about giving away money and all of that, or it's not about sponsoring nice things and PR. Actually, for me, I like to talk a bit about sustainability. It's even not about consumers. And in many places, I hear, if you make more sustainable products or more responsible products, then you can charge more for the consumers for that product. I'll tell you, my mom does not want to pay more money for sustainable products because she's not stupid. And because she's going to have the same product cheaper, and why she has to pay more while the others take the free ride. So there is only like 5% of people who would like to be crazy about sustainability. The same that there's only 5% of people who are crazy about Star Wars or about technology or something like that. I mean, sustainability in general, it has to be a different business case. So I'll give you some thoughts about how are some of the business case. One of the things is about, the key thing is not only about branding something sustainable or branding something environmentally friendly. The key thing is about combining innovation with changing the rules of the game. And this is key, because then you innovate to have a product which is more sustainable than the competitors or than the wider industry, and then you change the rules of the game. And I'll give you examples. The chemical industry, for example, they have been very good at changing the rules of the game through innovation plus lobbying. So they come up with a better molecule, a more benign molecule, less toxic molecule than the other one, and then they lobby to ban the old molecule. And then obviously they make more money, because then everybody has forced to buy the new molecule. And this is core business. This is about gaining market, a complete market over an old market. The same in renewables. It's about, and it's not only one company about another company. It's not just one product about another product. It's an ecosystem of doing things on a different way versus the ecosystem of doing things in the old way. What is happening with renewables? It's not only renewables versus fossil fuels. There is a whole thing about distribution, there's a whole thing about storing the energy, it's a whole thing about how the system works. Gas companies are today, in a way, cannibalized by insulation products. So you put insulation, better insulation in the world, and then people use less gas. So this is about, it's about this. This is about how you create a new market of a more sustainable product. So it's not really about the usual philanthropy. It's not really about, oh, I want to sell you a product which is a little bit less bad than the others, and I'm going to charge you 20% more, because people start to be stupid and they don't trust all these funny claims in the market. It's about how you think holistically about the system and how you extract competitive advantages by providing something which is genuinely better. And it's very difficult to provide something which is generally better on its own. It has to be genuinely better in the system, in the wider ecosystem. I'll give you some examples on our company. Like a ball, we make aluminum cans. I mean, you cannot, an aluminum can for Coca-Cola or for beer, it will never be good on its own, because it also has to have a recycling system. A recycling system and government regulation that gives people the opportunity to put it in the right bin, technologies that get the thing recycled. So that's why it's impossible just to have one product which is, let's say, more sustainable. You need to look wider at the whole system. Regulation is key. I'll give you an example. For us, for example, bad regulation was very damaging in Germany. They introduced a regulation in Germany in 2002, deposit in order to protect refillable glass, and the market went from 8 billion to 400 million. It was, let's say, a disaster. So regulation can be, this is core business, this is sustainability. And the sustainability has to be with the innovation, with the regulation, and with the wider system design. It cannot be on its own, so that it is strategic. That's why it's core to engage with product designers, with your suppliers, depending on which is, how is the company. The other, for example, things that we're seeing, for example, in Europe, the European Commission had a strong regulation around CO2 for cars, grams of CO2 per kilometer. That regulation, you start by top down. So, for example, setting the target for that regulation for the whole industry. So they have to arrive at whatever 900 grams of CO2 per kilometer by 2020. And then you enable countries to tax cars that produce more CO2 and have less tax for cars with less CO2. And then you allow cities to have maybe free parking for electric cars or free parking for cars with less CO2. And there is a huge different number of policy instruments in order to set up the system so that it favors products which are more sustainable. And you can see the amount of change that set of policy instruments have created, because the whole supply chain came up with innovations that didn't make sense before because it wasn't an incentive. And now they are in every single car. Even in countries with no regulation, then these cars are better because you need to design the car once, for most of the world. And they have auto stop start, they have lighter materials, they have in general, much more efficient ways. There are like 5 or 6 innovations that are now widespread. Why? Smart, sometimes smart regulation coupled with innovation. The other thing is important. I think also some companies don't understand that it's not really a lot about consumers. It's also about employees and engaging employees, especially the new generation. The new generation want to work for companies that are doing something better for the world. Because people don't wake up in the morning so excited by the 4.3 efficiency target. But you want to work for a wider scheme so that you work for a company that does better for your children. Because we want to have some meaning in our lives. And we spend 8 hours a day doing our work. We cannot do 8 hours a day working for something wrong and then have some meaning outside our work. People want also to have some meaning in work, and that's why employee engagement is absolutely key. And that's why we need to move the whole sustainability thing from just giving money and doing the nice things and painting some polar bears and all that crap into getting sustainability as an important subject. We need to make employees very proud of what are we doing by focusing on the core thing that the company is the core impact. And that's why companies need to really face that impact. You really understand whether a company is serious or not, whether they face the biggest issue. And many companies don't want to face that big issue. There is always what they call in English the elephant in the room, something that nobody wants to dare to talk. But unless this is discussed, then you understand it's serious. Then I'd like to talk a little bit about CO2. And CO2 is one of the biggest issues that we're facing as a society, and every single company has to have a CO2 target, has to have very serious attempt at that. And there is now what they call science-based targets. And the science-based target is a target so ambitious and calculated in a scientific way that if all the different companies achieve that target, then we would be saving the problem. We would be solving the problem. That's why having a science-based target is absolutely critical. And Paul and many of our customers, like Carlsberg, Coca-Cola, we're all publishing these science-based targets and calculating them through a level of ambition that is enough. Not just reducing a little bit and no, it has to be something. And also important, in order to calculate a science-based target, is you need to calculate it in a way that is meaningful to your footprint, that the footprint of your product. So, for example, for us as a beverage can manufacturer, our impact is not only the impact in our factories; it's the impact of our suppliers and the impact of the suppliers, because most of the impact of our product is outside our control. So, a science-based target obliges you to have a Scope 1, Scope 2, and Scope 3 targets, so that you don't only reduce your own impact, but you reduce the impact of the whole supply chain. So I think it's very critical that companies they step in and they have ambitious CO2 targets. And the same thing with waste. Today we need to avoid waste being sent to landfill, and even some waste being sent to incineration. Companies need to really step up and coming up with different ways of how we divert. And for example, in our company, we still put some of the waste, which is very difficult for us to find alternatives, but we are already finding alternatives. This is a sludge from cleaning our cans, and we use this limestone from cleaning water, and we are finding in some countries, for example, a solution in cement kilns. So it's always, you think that it's a waste, but that waste might be the food for another industry. And this is the way of thinking about what is the, my waste can be the food for some other industry, so I can even save some money, and then the waste from other industry can be the food for some of my processes. This called waste symbiosis is a trend, and many countries are investing in this waste symbiosis so that companies talk to each other in a more structured way to exchange waste. That's part of the whole circular economy, which is now tremendously important. It's not only about recycling; it's also about how can we make things last longer, like from a mobile phone that gets upgraded to buildings that don't, let's say, wear out. I've seen some of the buildings, for example, when you look in the city that they were built in the 50s, they look very, very old. But if we were designing buildings in a way that are modular, that you can take some things out and put some other things so that everything is modular. And if we were thinking about designing these things in the first place, then it would be so easy. So circular economy is about designing things in a way that can last for longer. And then there is another layer around circular economy, which is around leasing and around renting and around just not owning products, but using products and paying in different ways. I think I've already talked for too much. I think we have 20 minutes. I don't know whether we have now time for questions or we do it later.
We have time.
We have some time? So please. Alexander.
I don't think I give you all the thank you. I need to admit that your lecture about circular economy was short but very offensive and very strong, and I just wanted to ask you, it's great, everything which you said was really sensible, but can you tell us what can we do when we don't have this system which is applied for circular economy? We simply don't have the system which is based on this way of thinking. What would be your advice? It's like, let's think that your company is example which would be then transmitted to the whole country. What would be first step?
Okay, in some countries actually not having any infrastructure might be even better because you start from zero. I mean, in Spain, where I'm from, or in the UK, where I live, the current recycling systems are not that good, and it's very difficult, let's say, to change. So I think, you have some infrastructure, and Yelena, for example, is part of Secopac, and you have some, let's say, systems that are thinking. So I think there is some early infrastructure. The industry needs to get together. The industry needs to think long term, and the industry needs to think not just my own product or my own packaging, but a bit wider, and looking at the total cost of ownership, not only looking at reducing the cost of putting something to the consumer, but also looking at how you redesign, for example, a packaging so that it has less costs to recycle. And so, for example, recycling materials with just one, packaging with only one material, so you don't need to separate, for example, or recycling or not, thinking about how the waste management companies deal with your material and whether you can make some changes in the design. So it's about thinking wider. Industry getting together, having more conversations, more open with governments. Governments, they are busy, they have a lot of different things, and sometimes they don't have the resources to do a lot of studies. The industry and the NGOs and think tanks, they need to get together and put some thinking as well to complement that. But circular economy is not only about recycling. Circular economy is also about how you can incentivize so that people use less stuff and more services. Circular economy, you have Airbnb, you have these car sharing companies. It's part of the circular economy as well. It's about with technology, it's about how you make it last for longer. So there are many ways in which you can think about circular economy in general. It's a complex subject, very big subject. But I think and the strategy for each of them is different. But I think there are really good opportunities when you have less infrastructure.
Yeah, okay. My question is that although we acknowledge and we know about the benefits of such a perspective and point of view, most companies right now are still focused on only a few parts of the whole corporate social responsibility model, and they are focused more as a secondary activity in addition to the primary activity. So what are the main barriers of creating that integrated business model that incorporates all the key elements that you just discussed about? And once you create that integrated model, what are the core KPIs that you use in order to measure the effectiveness of your model?
I mean, it has to be, for me, having a separate thinking about, okay, what are the few things that we can do good in order to prop up my image. That's the wrong way, and this is what companies do. And this is many CSR departments, they report to the communications person or the marketing person, and that of course they do just for marketing. But it's more about thinking how strategically our core business, where are the threats, whether they are threats regulatory or because our business will be fit for the future, or new ways of thinking, and how or what are the opportunities. Whether I can expand to another market and steal market share from other things, whether it is in my sector or something else, and thinking from that core perspective, and then start to think, okay, how can I play a role into that? I think it needs to be from strategy, from product development. It has to be in the core. The core of the business is product development, purchasing in order to make the materials, manufacturing, marketing, sales. That's the core, and you need to develop that thinking from that core process, not from how can I improve my image a little bit, giving some money here or doing something nice, uba there.
Thank you. And regarding just the KPIs that you, for example, suggest using for such an integrated model that combines, let's say, profits, sustainability, employees, environment, and everything.
It depends on each business, because you have different issues in different businesses. So, for example, in our company, let's say recycling, it's a packaging, so recycling rate is key, but also the carbon, the full carbon cost of the carbon across the whole life cycle of the product. But in a pharma company, it's different. In a service company, it's different. So I think it really depends on the sector, but it has to be linked also with your core business, so measuring how you're growing the market, and also measuring these indicators, environmental and social indicators.
Thank you.
Thank you.